Hello everyone, I'm Renown Zero. We are back again talking about how the Final Fantasy VII director is now telling fans to skip the original game and start with the remake. Square tells new generation to forget the game that made them famous. Yes, it is indeed that Final Fantasy VII, when it originally came out on the PS1 back in the late 90s, it was a game that revolutionized what RPGs could absolutely be. It was the first 3D open world RPG game that a lot of people experienced when they dove into the PS1 era and when people were playing RPGs on the PlayStation 1. Now, me personally, I will always believe that the PS1 Final Fantasy VII game is always going to be superior as far as storytelling in comparison to the remake, and I have played the remake, and I will say that, in my opinion, it is far superior to the remakes in storytelling, character development, etc., etc. So let's get into the article here, of course. This is a collaboration now between Geeks and Gamers and Park Place. So, the director of the third installment of the Final Fantasy VII Remake wants new players to skip the original. And on top of all that, you can get the original Final Fantasy VII and have an actual complete game for anywhere to $10 to $20 on any platform during sales. You don't have to spend money on 3 different parts just to get a full experience and a full, complete story for a game. If you grew up in the PlayStation era, Final Fantasy VII wasn't just another RPG, it was the RPG. The one that defined the genre, made Cloud Strife an icon, and catapulted Squaresoft into gaming legend, yes. This was, of course, back when it was called Squaresoft, before it was called Square Enix, where they had a merger. But apparently, if you're a new player in 2025, Square Enix doesn't think you need to bother with all that. According to Final Fantasy VII Remake Trilogy director Naoki Hamaguchi, you should skip the original entirely and start with the remake instead. Quote, "If you have the opportunity, I'd like you to play the remake first and enjoy it as a fresh experience on its own," he said in what amounts to gaming sacrilege to generations of players. No. I, as a person who enjoys Final Fantasy VII, it is my second favorite Final Fantasy behind Final Fantasy X, you should absolutely play the original Final Fantasy VII before you even touch the remake whatsoever. That's right, forget the game that changed everything, just play the modern retelling designed for short attention spans and cinematic cutscenes. Well, I mean, they had cinematic cutscenes and things of that nature in the original, but the original is still far superior, again, as far as storytelling, character development, and everything else. The remake is designed to be enjoyed by people who have played the original and know it well, and also by complete newcomers who know nothing about it. Which, again, you should play the original game. It is a far better experience, you'll have a much better time, and it is a complete game for a much cheaper price. In other words, you'll get a similar experience. No, you really won't. Whether you've played the 1997 classic or not. That might sound like a diplomatic answer, but it effectively makes the original version irrelevant, like a dusty relic you only touch if you're feeling nostalgic. Now, they do change quite a bit of things in the remake, like certain scenes that I'm sure, honestly, it's a 20-year-old game. Aerith dies, gets killed by Sephiroth in the original game. If you haven't played Final Fantasy VII by now, I don't know what you're doing, but they do change that, and they introduce time travel into the remake, which is absolutely stupid. What used to be the definitive entry into the world of Midgar and the Shinra Corporation is now treated like a bonus feature if gamers indeed skip the original Final Fantasy VII. There's a bigger issue here than just personal preference. Telling gamers who skip the original undermines the entire history of gaming preservation. This isn't simply a remaster. The remake trilogy isn't a faithful recreation of the original, which is what most, if not all, fans wanted from the Final Fantasy VII Remake. We just wanted updated graphics of the original game. No reimagining of the story, just a graphical upgrade. It's a completely different beast. The pacing, the story structure, the tone, and even the message have changed. Square Enix transformed Final Fantasy VII from a tightly written, story-driven adventure into a sprawling, cinematic, 3-part reinterpretation that plays more like an action game than an RPG. So when Hamaguchi says to play the remake first, he's not telling new players to experience Final Fantasy VII, he's telling them to experience Square Enix's modern reinterpretation of it. That's like telling someone to skip the original Star Wars trilogy and just watch Disney Plus's The Acolyte. Yeah, no, don't ever watch don't ever watch The Acolyte. If you're gonna watch Star Wars, watch 4, 5, 6, then watch 1, 2, and 3, and be done with it. Maybe watch Rogue One, but in my opinion, Rogue One was boring. Let's be clear, the original Final Fantasy VII still holds up. It sure does. Sure, it's blocky, and yes, the camera angles and menu system screams 1990s, but it also delivers something today's cinematic entry titles rarely do: player imagination. They also have created mods for PC players where they have actual voice acting, and they have upscalers for, to upscale the games to 4K that are very good. The old game lets players fill in the blanks. The low-poly art and text boxes create room for your mind to shape the story. The remake, for all its visual beauty, leaves nothing to imagination. Every emotion is rendered, every mystery spoon-fed. Hamaguchi's start with the remake line might sound harmless, but to longtime fans, it's another saying that Square Enix is more interested in marketing a product than preserving an art form. Yes, they're more interested in you just completely forgetting that the original Final Fantasy VII exists for a much cheaper price, with a much better story, with much better character development, over the new game that costs you more. It'll take you longer to complete, and you have to buy it in 3 parts. This whole debate highlights the larger identity crisis at Square Enix. The company that once prioritized storytelling and innovation is now chasing modern trends, flashy visuals, extended DLC, and multi-game cinematic experiences, which basically, if you buy all 3 games for $60, with the first game $70, and then $70, you're basically spending $200 plus tax for one complete experience. It's the same issue haunting other major franchises: Halo, Mass Effect, Star Wars, take your pick. Creative teams that think they can reinvent legacy titles without respecting what made them beloved in the first place. Square Enix wants to live it both ways, cash in on nostalgia while insisting the past doesn't matter. But when you tell fans to skip the original Final Fantasy VII, you're not just rewriting history, you're also telling them that this doesn't matter. The original game doesn't matter, even though it's a far superior experience in every way imaginable. Maybe Hamaguchi genuinely believes the remake is a better entry point. Maybe he's just following Square Enix's PR script, but the result is the same: a subtle message to a new generation that the original masterpiece doesn't matter. That's not fresh, that's revisionist. They've also, done things like censored Tifa, which is another thing that really sucks that they managed to do with the new game. And of course they had the ethics department, which I think is actually gone now. But the fact that the game back then was made with an entire complete story all in one with 3 discs, rather than you buying 3 separate releases, is a much better experience. So if you need a Final Fantasy VII, do yourself a favor, start where it all began. 1997, no DLC, no mid-game reboots, no corporate polish, just pure pixelated brilliance. Don't skip the original Final Fantasy VII, I agree. Then by all means, play the remake trilogy if you want, but don't let anyone tell you to skip history. Yeah. Most, if not all, of Square Enix's greatest video games were created under Squaresoft. Final Fantasy VII, Final Fantasy VIII, controversial, not really my favorite, Final Fantasy IX, and I believe even Final Fantasy X, were all created under Squaresoft. Correct me if I'm wrong. They also created masterpieces like Chrono Trigger. They also had things like Super Mario RPG. These are all RPG games that are really fun masterpiece experiences that I believe every lover of RPGs should take a moment to experience. Go back and play those amazing games that they used to create back in the day. Even Brave Fence and Musashi, Vagrant Story, I believe, are also games of Xenogears is another one of my favorite RPGs ever made by Squaresoft. Fantastic RPG game. Go back and experience those games before you experience any of the newer games that they created, because you'll be missing out on some very good and great masterpiece experiences from back in the day. Thank you all for checking out this video. I really do appreciate all the new subscribers, returning subscribers, new viewers, and returning viewers. If you do like this video, smash the like button. Comment below if you about this. Subscribe for more content. Hit the bell for notifications. Set the bell to all. That way you'll get a notification anytime I post a new video or go live on the channel. See you on the next one. Peace.